Okay, let's dive into this proposed 2025 national security strategy. This isn't just another policy paper. It's a proposed blueprint for America's future on the world stage, and it really calls for a fundamental shift in how America sees itself and its role in the world.
So, over the next few minutes, we're going to break down what this document is really all about, kicking things off with its pretty sharp diagnosis of the past and then digging into its bold vision for the future.
So first up, the why. The strategy really begins with a harsh critique of American foreign policy, basically ever since the Cold War ended, arguing that it has gone completely and fundamentally astray.
And right from the start, this thing pulls no punches. I mean, this quote frames decades of foreign policy not just as some kind of mistake, but as a self-inflicted wound that actually weakened America from the inside out.
The thinking here is that all these miscalculations, over-shouldering burdens, betting on globalism, they weakened the very foundation of American power, its economic strength and its national character. And this slide, I think, really gets to the heart of the whole critique. On one side, you've got what the document calls a laundry list of wishes, vague and just overextended. And on the other, you have this proposed, concrete, realistic plan that's laser-focused on core national interests. It's a really powerful reframing of the whole debate.
So, if the old way failed, what does this new strategy actually want to achieve? Let's take a look at the vision it lays out.
So what does this new America First vision actually want? Well, what's interesting is that the strategy argues the answer starts right here at home, by rebuilding the domestic pillars of national strength.
The first pillar, securing the homeland. And the document is totally unequivocal on this, identifying full control of the nation's borders as an absolutely non-negotiable starting point for any kind of national security.
The second pillar is all about military power. But you'll notice the goal isn't just about winning wars. It's about having a military so overwhelmingly powerful that potential adversaries don't even think about starting one in the first place.
And this right here, this brilliantly illustrates the core link the strategy makes between domestic and foreign policy. A powerful industrial base is seen as the absolute bedrock of national power.
And these domestic strengths are what are supposed to support these 5 core foreign policy interests. As you can see, they range from securing the Western Hemisphere all the way to making sure Europe can defend itself, and they're designed to be the laser focus of American foreign policy moving forward.
Okay, so we've got the critique of the past and the vision for the future. But how does the strategy actually propose getting there? Well, that brings us to the new rulebook, the core principles for action. The entire strategy really rests on these 4 key principles you see here. Peace through strength, what it calls the primacy of nations, sovereignty, and a major emphasis on burden sharing with allies. Let's just quickly touch on what these actually mean.
The first one is pretty straightforward. A strong economy and a strong military prevent challenges from even arising in the first place. Simple as that.
Now, this second principle, it directly challenges the idea of transnationalism, the belief in global governance over national interests. Instead, it argues that a more stable world is actually one where strong, independent nations each pursue their own interests, but do so respectfully.
And here's where the rubber really meets the road on that burden-sharing principle. The strategy proposes a new Hague commitment, and it calls for NATO allies to spend 5% of their GDP on defense. That is a huge jump from the current 2% target, and it signals a massive shift in expectations.
So, how do these principles actually apply to specific regions? Well, the document lays out a prioritized global approach. Let's see how it works in practice.
Starting in America's own backyard, the strategy introduces what it's calling the Trump corollary. This is basically a modern update to the almost 200-year-old Monroe Doctrine, and it's designed to prevent rival powers, think China or Russia, from getting any kind of strategic foothold here in the Western Hemisphere.
Now, shifting over to Asia, the strategy lays out a very clear 2-pronged approach. First, win the economic and tech race. And second, maintain a military so strong that it prevents that competition from ever escalating into a hot war.
For Europe, the message is really a call for a course correction. The document encourages allies to take the primary responsibility for their own defense and to reverse what it calls a trajectory of decline in both civilizational self-confidence and military readiness.
And what about the Middle East? Well, the argument here is for a pretty significant shift. The idea is that America's own energy independence allows for a much less interventionist role, focusing instead on partnerships and burden sharing.
So at the end of the day, what we've really unpacked here isn't just a list of policy changes, it's a proposal to completely redefine the very purpose of American power.
shifting from shouldering global burdens to unapologetically pursuing national interests. And the final question it leaves us with is a big one. Is this the blueprint for a stronger, more secure America, or is it a step back from the world?